Hi, Gaye DeRusso with the Majestic rider here today with Bojangles. So gonna show the new owner just how to get his gaits. I always like to give lots of videos and information. And let's make this a little tighter. Your throat latch should just be mid-cheek. Check all your equipment. Make sure nothing's hitting them in the teeth. Don't let them eat grass. Use your foot. That doesn't work. You yank on the reins to get his head back up. This is a great horse, but he's young. Young horses are like children. You have to give them rules. You got to give them boundaries so they know what they're supposed to do. And you don't want to give them too much. You don't want to give kids too much candy, and you don't want to give the horses too many cookies. When they're like this, he's overly friendly, and I know they taught him some tricks, so they gave him a lot of food. You got to be careful, because if you have food on you, some of them will get very mouthy and very pushy, so don't have any food. No carrots, no treats, or anything on your body possession, unless you're a very strong horseman, and you're very good at keeping the horses out of your space, which some of you are, then of course you can. I always do. But I won't let them into my space. So some of the things are blocking us, so I'll be talking, but you might lose visual of me at some of the points. So we ran him around a little bit. I took some video of that, which I'll show you. And he started off very spunky, and then he became very calm. Don't let them walk off until you're ready, and then you use leg. A lot of people lift their hands to go. You don't want your hands to be a signal to go, because then when you need to stop them, they won't stop. Alright, so we're going to walk up here and turn around so you won't see me for a minute. Might catch me over here. So he walks very slow like a quarter horse. Some Rockies and some Fox Trotters will do that. We are on gravel and he doesn't have shoes behind. And so sometimes that'll bother some of the horses, or their stifles will start acting up because of those rocks. So if you're on rocks all the time, and your horse is doing a little bit of funny things with their stifles, just put shoes on behind. There's certain angles you can use. I can send it to you if you need help. But otherwise, if you're not riding on rocks, most of them do fine barefoot behind. And it can help the pacey ones just because a little difference in the weight from shoes on the front and not on the back. So you'll see he's very slow. I could let go, but then he's going to wander off and not pay attention. Now he's speeding up today. But besides that, you just want to keep your reins short so he knows how fast to go and where his job is. I have not ridden him back and forth on this before, so this will be new for him. And just make your turns wide, especially with the young ones. In the beginning, you don't want to be spinning them around too much if you don't have to, because again, it can bother their stifles, and all of their stifles are growing. Their stifles are just like your kneecaps, and think of how many kids have problem with their kneecaps. So let them grow, do pulls, do hills, do lots of backing up, walking forward and backing up. And all those things will help strengthen their stifles. You can do tail pulls, and you can have them lift their belly. All those things help, and you can do those on rainy days when you're bored. So I'm just warming him up. Even though he ran around, I want to walk back and forth a couple of times. When people get new horses, I always recommend for the first 6 months to a year, you always lunge it or run it around. Most everybody does not listen to me. You know, horses are made to roam 30 miles a day, and even if they're calm, they will start to get spunky if they're not getting worked enough. And most people do not ride them as hard as the trainers ride them, okay? We might ride a horse 4 hours if we need to work on something. So most of the time it's not, and then over time the horse starts getting spunkier or spookier or something like that. So you always want to lunge, run it around or something like that so you really know that horse, and that takes most people 2 years, but do it at least 6 months to a year, and anytime it's cold or you haven't ridden that horse, okay? Better have too calm a horse than too spunky a horse for most people. You might complain, but it's not going to hurt you by the horse being too dull. He knows all the arena work, which is great. Okay, now we're just going to speed up. So to get his flat walk, I like to alternate my legs. He's just not paying attention, so I'm just straightening his head. So if he looks right, you pull left. If he looks left, you pull right. Keep straightening that horse and make them pay attention. His flat walk's not very fast, and it usually takes a couple of times to get the rhythm. When you're practicing with your horse, I mean, going back and forth like this, I do it so I show the horses, but it's not good to work on the horse because you have to keep stopping and turning around and you kind of lose your rhythm. You'd rather work in an arena or a round pen or somewhere you can make a circle like a pasture so you can keep moving and you don't have to keep making these sharp turns and going back. And if a horse does have a stifle problem, it's a good way to test them because that can start to irritate them. Okay, I'm coming back. I know I probably lost sight of me. So with your flat walk, you just one leg and then the other. You kind of push with their belly going back and forth. So his belly goes to the left, so I push with my right leg. When his belly goes to the right, I push with my left leg. So it's right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. And I just keep going with the horse's rhythm, and before you know it, you don't even know you're doing it anymore. It becomes second nature. But it helps to lengthen their stride, and it will help to keep that horse's rhythm. And it gives them a different cue versus when we go into a different gait, because with regular trotting horses, you can just squeeze, and they walk, and you squeeze again, and they trot. But these horses can do so many different things, so it's nice to give them different signals so they know which gait to do. So I like to alternate my legs for the flat walk, and then if he's not going, I just tap with my stick behind my leg. You could always tap on his shoulder as well, but you're trying to reinforce your leg. That's why you try to tap behind your leg, and dressage whips work best. Crops, or those short little whips, are better for jumping because they usually are tapping them on the shoulder, and you don't need a long stick to tap a horse on the shoulder. But we're trying to reinforce our legs so he listens to it. And as he gets going, he can be a little bit lazier and try to ignore you. So you keep pushing, just keep trying to get that rhythm. It's good to work on your flat walk for months and months and months until they get that really good, okay? Because it helps you to get that second gait. But you're just trying to get the horse in a neutral position so his head's kind of level with the front of my saddle. He's reaching out. This horse doesn't have a big overstride or anything, but he's reaching out for him, and you're just working on straightness, holding them in between your hands and your legs and keeping that rhythm. It's good when you get a new horse to have a trainer to help you, to support you, to show you what you're doing well and to show you what you're doing wrong. Have contact with the person who sold you the horse because they usually know it well. And if that trainer's not helping you, call that seller up and start asking a lot of questions on what to do because you're probably not doing what they did with that horse. The only way to know is to ask them, okay? Most people think they're riding the horses hard enough because they're getting it out a couple of days a week. They're not. I ride horses 5 days a week. I get them out at least an hour to 3 to 4 hours a day. They are working or being desensitized. So they get a lot of work and they get a lot of stimulation, and that entertains them, especially the young ones. So most people aren't going to do that, so you might have to prepare them harder, and you might have to be stricter because they might not be as tired. I just tell people, like, don't give them a lot of treats when you get them. Give them work, give them rules, tie them up after you're done riding so they don't get barn sour. Tie them up with the saddle on. You can tie them in the stall, but make it short enough that they just have a foot of rope. And don't let them eat or drink for an hour or two. Just let them soak in what they did in the lesson. Horses make association, so what they associate is being done and then going back to their friends. But if they start realizing when they're done, they just get tied up and the saddle stays on and it's not so fun standing there by yourself, guess what? They're not in a rush to be done anymore. So teach them the rules. And tying them up and just letting them soak everything in is great. You can tie them in an arena if you have an Aussie ring. Let them get used to all the crazy arena stuff, especially if you have, oh, it's not in here today. We sometimes have cows in here. We have people doing barrel and reining stuff. Some gaited horses are not used to that stuff. They've never seen it. So they got to get used to it, and they got to get used to horses galloping by them if you got those people in your arena. They got to get used to if you have big dressage horses because they have a lot of power and you really hear the pounding of their hooves. So they got to get used to when they're doing a working canter or they're extending their gait and flying around that arena. Your horse has to get used to that stuff. That can take years, a couple of years. But if you tie them up in the arena and they see it every day because you leave them in there an hour or two, guess what? They get used to it much, much faster. Alright, so we're going to try and go faster in a minute. So with this horse, you want to keep his head a little bit low, get him to relax his neck and back. Now, he can saddle gait and he can foxtrot, so it matters which one you're going for. If you don't have a soft bounce in the saddle, there he changed, then you're not foxtrotting. If it's very smooth, you're more likely doing a saddle gait. So with this horse, and this might be true with some of you who are watching this horse will trot when he's loose. He occasionally paces, but he does pace under saddle some. So the trick is to keep his head low, more like a quarter horse, not on the ground, but low enough he stretches and relaxes his back and neck. And then once you get the hang of it, then you can start bringing his head back up to neutral. You go to their belly kind of and tickle it. If you wear spurs, it usually helps. If you tickle their belly and get them to raise their belly, a lot of times that'll get them into the foxtrot. So we're just going to go back and forth for a bit. And it's best not to try for your second gait until you have the first one down really well. There's no rush. Now, some of these horses, like him, they'll get in between a foxtrot and a saddle gait. It's not like a pure foxtrot, and it's not a pure saddle gait. So, with that, it's okay, unless you're showing. It's okay. You just want it smooth, and you want to be able to reproduce everything you're asking. And again, this would be much easier if I was in the arena. Other things you can do if you have a trotty one is slide the bit a little bit. Just kind of wiggle it a little bit in their mouth, and with some of them, that'll get them out of the trot if they're getting too trotty, and get them towards their gait. You can also turn their head a little sideways if they keep hitting a hard trot and raise their head up. I'm not doing some of those things with him because he's not getting too trotty. He's staying a little bit lateral. And you can watch this video and guess which one he's doing. But again, sometimes he changes. He'll be doing a foxtrot and a step later he'll do a saddle gait. So that's just working on it and deciding which one you like, and then half halting and using your leg to keep the horse in it. He can go pretty fast, but he usually doesn't do it unless you push him. And each horse is different as it goes faster. Some of them will stay in the foxtrot, and other ones, then they go into their saddle gait. So it's tricky because a lot of foxtrotters will do that. Some people even think the saddle gait is the foxtrot. It's not. They are two different things. Again, to me, it doesn't really matter because we're trail riders. We just want ours to be sound and do well and be happy and stay in the gait that we're asking them to do, or stay the same speed, I should say. And everybody's back is different, so it's very cool when they can do both, and then you can choose which one you like better, or you keep them all. If he pulls his head, you just hold till he gives to the bit. And these bits help to bring the horse's head down, the miler bits, usually with the shank, the wonder bits you'll see me use at time, which people don't understand them. They're also called gag bits, and people get freaked out. The gaited horses actually go pretty well on them, especially if they're trotty. And you'll see, if you're riding correctly and have soft hands, they're not throwing their heads or anything. They're quite happy, and they're much more happy in that than any kind of snaffle. So see, he's quite smooth. You don't see me bouncing much, so you probably figure out what gait it is. Okay. Now, I'll come back and we'll see if we can canter him. He canters really slow. He canters circles very nicely. You just got to push him. The cue is, so for the foxtrot or the foxtrot, if you want a foxtrot, you should feel a soft bounce in the saddle. With him, keep his head lower. If he's not getting it, go to his belly, tickle him a little bit with the spurs, and then just kind of leg yield him back and forth and use pull. If you want the saddle gait, just sit back a little bit, raise his head more up to neutral. If that doesn't get it, raise it a little bit higher. Just use both legs, and when you do the foxtrot or the saddle gait, and that'll usually get it out of him. When you go to canter, half halt, shift your weight to the outside, ask with your outside leg. So I'll do it coming back this way, and I'll just talk through it, because right at the moment I don't know which lead I'm going to pick. We're going to see how he's doing. He does canter on both leads very nicely, and on the trail he'll just pick up that nice easy canter all the time. If your horse has a nice easy canter, that's great, but don't let them canter unless you ask them, because all of a sudden many of the horses will just start cantering all the time instead of gating, because it's pretty easy, and the gait takes some energy, some thought, placing each foot down. So let them canter all the time. They can all canter if you want them to, but you want to use cues. So we're going to half halt and shift our weight. All right, so here we go. Half halt, shift my weight, outside leg. I didn't get it. That's okay, because again, I haven't done it out here. We'll just do it again. So if they're just starting to gait and gait faster, they're not understanding what you're saying, no big deal, because again, I don't expect it. It would be nice if he just picked it up, but I expected he might not know what I was asking. He does in the arena, but again, I haven't done it out here. I like to use the word canter. This is his canter, so he's on the right lead. I can let him go, and he doesn't go any faster. I'm going to slow down. If the horse keeps trying to go by their stall, because that's their stalls over there, I just slide the bit every time I go by that area to make it uncomfortable for them to even think that thought. So anywhere you don't want them to go and they try to go, you slide the bit and do it harder and harder until they get the idea. Canter. So he canters very nicely, very controlled, but that's because he has some trot in him. So if you're watching this video and you have a horse that just paces, don't expect a canter like that. Your canter is going to be different because your horse is wired different. Many of the problems with people's horses are just we're not preparing them well. Half halt, shift your weight, canter. Prepared well, they have too much energy, and you're not clear with your boundaries and your rules. So be very clear. I know. One more time for good luck. And remember, when you have a young horse, even though they might be good, they won't always be good. They're just like children. They're going to have some temper tantrums. They're going to have some meltdowns. They need clear boundaries, and that's why it's very helpful to have a trainer help you in the beginning, watch you, get that horse out all the time in the beginning. Once you're good and safe, then you can start taking less lessons and doing more on your own. But in the beginning, you stick with those trainers until they make sure you're safe enough, okay? Because people don't, and that's how horses get messed up. Because you think you know what you're doing, but you truly don't, or you don't understand that horse, and then it goes downhill. Okay, I'm going to get off here, so I like to get off away from the barn. And I'm going to loosen up my girth over here, away from the barn. This horse ties up well. He's not barn sour or any of those things, but any horse can become those things if you don't do the correct things. So, this is a message for people buying Bojangles, the trainer that's helping them, but this is a message for all of you too. When you get a new horse that the horse doesn't understand its job or where it's going or what it's doing, especially if it's come to a trainer, we've kind of tuned it up and then sold it. You know, it's been passed around a little bit, so it doesn't know, and it's going to test. Do I have to do the same here that I did there? It's just like you when you were in school and you're like, teacher's not here. We got a substitute. Let's just be crazy and see how she takes it. Substitute comes in, puts you all in line, sends people to detention, off. You don't act up anymore. Substitute comes in, you're crazy, she gets scared and submissive, she starts crying at her desk. What do? You take over the classroom. You go out of control, you start throwing things, spitballs, papers, maybe beating each other up, just screwing around, go get your phone and play on it. You do all sorts of bad stuff. Don't do that. So with your new horse, rules, boundaries. So with all new horses and all horses, I have a bubble around me. You stay there. I have a bubble around me. It's about this big, 3 feet on all sides. I don't let them in my bubble. When I walk them, I keep them behind me. They know it because I train them. If they start to come in my space, I wiggle. If they won't get out of the space, I wave the stick. If they still won't get out of the space, I might tap them in the nose or tap them in the chest or legs. If they can't get in my bubble, there's no way you can hurt me. Okay? So keep them out of your bubble and teach them that. Many years ago, we taught everybody to walk like this, and that's what we all did. They were all old lesson horses, so we did okay. But not these younger horses. If you walk like this and you're constantly holding them, well, then they never learn to walk on their own like this. And when you do walk like this, they walk ahead of you. That puts their back foot right by your head in case they decide to explode and kick out it might hit you in the head. So I'm a trail rider. At times we have to walk down the trails on a single track, and the horse has to climb over trees behind us or through the brush. I want him back there. I want him back there so he doesn't go over the brush with me and knock me over. I've seen that happen many times, and I tell people, I told you to keep him behind you. I told you to make sure he respected your space. He doesn't respect you. He doesn't care, and he just took the lead and knocked you over. So if you're a trail rider, it's good to teach them to be back there, make them do it all the time. Then you can show them where to walk each time, but be consistent and always keep them out of your space. Again, if they can't get in your space, they cannot hurt you. Okay? So it's important when you get a new horse, these are my rules. You stay out of my space. I might come in and pet you. Hi, buddy. Oh, you're such a pretty horse. Such a good boy. Now watch. I'm going to back out. Stay. So you don't confuse them, because they'll come right into your space because you're being friendly, and they're like, I like that. I think I'll walk into her space. You got to teach them, no, I come to you, or I pull you in like this. Hi, buddy. You want to give me a little kissy? Oh, yeah. That's a baby talk to annoy people with. You're a good boy. You did so good today. I'm going to miss you. You're a funny guy. Yes, you are. Now I'm going to back him up. Back. See how he's not backing up? Because he's a little dull sometimes. That's okay. That's what dull horses do. So always keep a stick and protect yourself, because they're big. That steps on my foot. He could break my whole foot. That's not a good thing. So if you walk slow, you make that horse walk slow. Yes. Now, he just take a big sigh like, this isn't fun. I'm like, I don't care. I hurt my foot today. You got to go slow. Now, at times I might go fast. So if your horse respects you, they will actually imitate what you're doing. When you make the turn, put your stick out so they don't get into your space or get ahead of you. If you don't like hitting them, you wave your stick around you, and if they walk into the stick pressure, you didn't do it. They did it to themselves. So you can always do that as well. You just wing it back and forth, or you wing your rope. But keep them out of your space. If you don't, it plays into everything else. He's trying to cut. If I didn't wave this stick, he would have cut that turn and tried to get ahead of me. But you might think the groundwork's not important. It's super important, because if I can't control him here, which lots of people can't, you can't control him well up there. So make him respect you on the ground. Make him respect you up there. And you might say, well, I just want him to be my friend. Well, watch how they treat their friends. They bite each other. They kick each other. Sometimes they beat the heck out of their friend because they want their food. And when they want something, they decide to take it. That's how horses are. So you want to teach them the rules that, yes, we're friends, but I am the head friend. I am the leader. So what I say goes, and don't push the issue here. Okay? So with new horses, you got to be careful. They don't know the rules. It's best to give them rules and boundaries and show them what they can and cannot do. Of course, give them love, but it should not be the love first. Give them the rules so they know. It makes the horses much happier. They know their job, and they know what they're supposed to do, and you just keep them going, being good. You tie them up after you ride them. You work them before you ride them. You work with a purpose when you are riding them. And you have someone to help you in case you're making mistakes and you don't know you're doing it. Now, if that doesn't make sense, or you're like, that's stupid, I don't want to do that, blah, blah, it's up to you what you do with your horse. I don't care. I'm just giving out free advice. You can listen to it, but you don't have to. I'm telling you what usually works. Each trainer is different. You can follow whichever one you want, but that's what I recommend, especially with my horses, because they already know it. You can make a horse that was very well behaved into a monster, and you can make a horse that was being a monster into a very well behaved horse, just depending what you do with it. But it's always work the energy off, just like you do with kids. They run around before they go to school. They have a recess outside, and then they go to school, because then they're ready to learn. They've worked off some of the energy, and they can actually think instead of react. It's the same with the horse. You want them thinking and digesting things and not spooking, running off, or being a nut job trying to run past everybody else. Work that energy off. Then ride with a purpose. Tell them things to do. Don't just sit there. Leg yield them. Do a little shoulder in. Do a little serpentine. Stop. Back up. Make a circle. So they're paying attention. And then again, tie them up when you're done. Don't take the saddle off immediately. Don't loosen the girth back at the barn if possible. Loosen it away from the barn when you get back there. If you're going to tie him up, tighten that girth up so he knows the barn's not a good place to do. It's very simple things that make great horses. But you'll see trainers usually do not spoil their horses. They do not overfeed them. They usually don't give them too many cookies. They give them rules, exercise, and love, and then they usually end up being well. Okay? I know. We talked a lot. But hopefully that helps you if you have a new horse. And remember, low-calorie food, not too much food. You can see this horse is an easy keeper. This is not a horse you want to overfeed. People overfeed them, and that's how they end up with medical issues. So a horse like this, 1 or 2 flakes, depending on what kind of grass, hay it is. Don't feed alfalfa. That would be too much for him. It would be too much energy, and it's a lot of calories, and then some horses get enteroliths from alfalfa. You can feed them a little once you know the horse, or you find out, I've had this horse for years, he's totally dead. Sure, give him alfalfa then if you want. It helps with ulcers. It does do some good things, but you got to be careful. In the beginning, you don't want to overfeed them, give them too much energy, or give them any medical problems. All right, that's all I can think of for now. Hope that helps. Remember, like and subscribe and turn your notifications on.